Monday. I'm so excited. I am so excited to be here. I know for those of you tuned in live, uh yes, this is Memorial Day, and I thank you guys for tuning in. Most of America is probably out barbecuing. We're starting to open up. Um, for those of you watching on the replay on YouTube, we recorded this. We are recording this live right now on Memorial Day 2020, the 25th here of May, and it's we've got a awesome guest today to join us, and amazing stories, and we're going to get into that a little bit. But what I wanted to um, before we bring Oliver Bauer, by the way, we're going to bring him in, and he is. I met this guy when I was in Romania last summer, and I was supposed to be going back to Romania this summer to see him again. So we're going to connect this way because obviously we're all locked down. But the I wanted to check in with everybody once again and just kind of have a recap and see how we're doing. You know, last week when we got together, we talked about perspective, how important it is in this day and age, is to not to look at what you're missing or what you've lost, but to look at what you're gaining and what you found. And in that, I find that as I talk to people all over the country and all over the world, but with having so much time, I was talking to Ryan Pyle, one of my guests here. I think he was my third or fourth guest on the journeys, and you know, he's 9 weeks locked down in Istanbul, and he's not from Turkey, and he's discovered a lot of new things. And I've talked to other people who maybe are just having a sense of reevaluating who they are, what they do, what they like to do, what their passion is. What are you doing that you can't do anymore, and what have you discovered? Somebody wrote me and says, I really realized I love to paint. Paintings, not like painting your house, of course, but painting art. And I think that this is I'd like to suggest to all of us is to have that perspective of looking at how you're taking advantage of this time, as opposed to looking at how disadvantaged you are for having locked up. But here we are. It is Memorial Day. The pandemic, the COVID-19, hasn't gone anywhere, but we've seemed to have, obviously we've plateaued a bit in a lot of states, and people are starting to move out. Here in San Diego, it's tough because the restaurants here are starting to open. I think on Friday they opened up, but they're limited to 25% of capacity. And think about restaurants and the thin margins that they're on anyway. But anyway, that's a little bit. Keep that perspective. Just a couple bits for you. I'm gonna put up a poll. I'm curious to see if this is your first time with us, and go ahead and answer that. But what I was going to suggest here, a couple points of business regarding the webinar platform we're using. If for some reason when we're talking with Oliver that we start to get jittery or freeze, there's a little red button at the top that says reconnect. Go ahead and click that, and that should get us back. And then down in the bottom of the chat window, you'll see this little thing that says chat mode, where there's a little chat box. If you click the icon next to that, if you have a question for either of us, you can click that and make your question in the chat box, and it will put a little flag on it. So Oliver and I will recognize that, there is a question. So awesome. So I can see we've already got some people. Go ahead and introduce yourself on the chat. I see Linda is in from Leucadia. That's my town. Hey, Linda. Dragos from Bucharest. All right. We've got some Romania people coming in, and looks like Barbara's in from the UK, from Surrey. And it's good. Before we bring Oliver in, I wanted to quickly run by, because I think it's good to have a retrospective on where we've been with Journeys. I've all done this because I've been locked down, and I'm somebody who doesn't like to sit still. I like to travel. So the idea of Journeys came up. I started as just as a whim, and I brought in the very episode 1, Ronnie Borrego from South Africa, who spent 4 years riding around the world on his motorcycle. And I had met him when I was in Namibia, believe it or not. And then we went down to Uruguay with Jeremy and Elle, who are on motorcycles as well. And they got into Uruguay, and just after they landed in Uruguay, the border was cut off and the airport was shut down. Then we went to Ecuador with Dr. Sauls, who told us stories of mountain climbing, death, and hope. And in episode 4, Ryan, who, as I told you before, is in Istanbul. And then in 5, we were in Mexico with Jerry. And last week with Ashley. Everybody really loved that one with Ashley Colburn from Croatia. But I want to bring in Oliver now. Let me tell you about Oliver. Oliver is German, but he lives in Romania. And Oliver Bauer is the winemaker for 2 wineries in Romania, and in the Dragasani region there, for Prince Stirby, and his own label called Bauer. And at about 29 years old, Oliver had the opportunity to come help train some Romanian winemakers to make wine and to kind of revive and revitalize this Prince Stirby estate, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. And originally, it was going to be a 2 or 3 month operation. Come down, train people how to tend to the vines, how to make wine, get the cellar organized. And as soon enough, he realized that wasn't going to be enough time. And fast forward to now, that was in 2003. Oliver Bauer is now, been more than 17 years living in Romania. So I'd like to bring Oliver on. And Oliver, if you got I know you're in the room here. I turn on your microphone and your camera. And
hi, everybody.
There we go. Let's get this show on the road. Welcome to Journeys, Oliver.
Good to be here. Nice to see you again.
So great.
Hi to everybody. Yes.
Yeah, we're doing all right. It's people are starting to breathe, right? we're starting to breathe again. And you tell us a little bit what's happened in Romania. When did things first start locking down, and what's happening now?
Oh, well, the last almost 3 months we lived with this lockdown now. Of course, it was a pretty new experience for all of us, but especially our own business, due to the fact that we are depending 100% on HoReCa. That means restaurants, specialized magazines, private clients. So they cut off, let's say, the main rootstock of our business, and not only of our business, but of many businesses amongst winemakers and wineries in Romania. It's tough. It's really tough. But we have very loyal clients, and I think we also started soon enough to introduce different ways to approach wine and to enjoy wine. So we are doing okay. I would say we are doing okay, still okay. But it's tough. Most of all because there is not yet any plan, or let's say an idea how we will go on after this crisis.
Yeah, there's okay. But tell me about we were talking earlier before when we were in the green room about how the government is still, even though you're starting to open up, things are starting to, there's still restrictions. How are people moving about?
Let's say the restrictions are there. So some days ago, you're not allowed to move out of your house without having a certain piece of paper where it's written the what you need to do, or what your intentions are. This is a little bit, let's say, more loose now. So you can now travel, you can now move in your town, in your village, wherever you want to go. But if you're leaving the town or your village, you have to have, again, good reasons, and you have to have, again, a piece of paper written, which you have to show if police will control you. But the people, actually, as I told you, actually, I've been today in the small town of Dragasani, and the people are on the streets. They are also buying things. The life is back, or was never away, but the the only thing is the people aren't enjoying themselves as they used to. So the terraces, the restaurants, the bars, everything is closed, still closed. But yes, supermarkets are opened, magazines are opened, of course restricted with distance and everything. But yes, it appears somehow irreal what's going on, and nice sunshine outside, and then you're not allowed to sit on the terrace drinking a good glass of wine. It's a pity. It's a shame, but that's reality.
Yeah. And for the for people in the U.S. that are tuning in, when Oliver says magazines, these are specialized shops that sell wine and other things.
A vinotex, yes.
Yeah, like a vinotex. So a magazine is not something they're reading. Magazine's definitely a place for us to do for them to do business. Oliver, I want to show, because we have a lot of people here in the room from the U.S. Let's show. I want to, people don't maybe understand exactly where Romania fits in the larger picture. So this is the map of largely of Europe. From up here in the left, you can see London. I'm going to go and do this. I can get my little thing. So this is Romania right here. I'm circling it right here. So Romania borders to the south, Bulgaria, Moldova to the west, and to the north you've got the Ukraine, Hungary, and then Serbia directly to the west. And you can see how close it is to it. It actually has some coastline. And when we zoom in some more, we'll clear that. This is the red dot is where you are, right, Oliver? And it's called Dragasani, right?
Dragasani. That was perfectly pronounced. Yes, exactly.
I love it because it's got an eye.
We're going somewhere. We are going somewhere with you. Yes,
we are. And then if we zoom in some more, so as I said, we've got some Black Sea coast. So Romania does have coastline on the Black Sea. Constanța, I was there, and if we zoom in a little bit more, you get a sense of he's slightly northwest of Bucharest, and Bucharest is the capital of Romania. And some people have called it in the old days, I think, Oliver, if I'm not mistaken, they used to call it the Paris of Eastern Europe. Very cosmopolitan city, and great restaurants, great history, etc. So that's actually where Oliver is dialing in from. And we're gonna take this off of here, and we're gonna bring you back. There we are. So I want to, in all of the promo and my letters I sent out to all the followers here who tuned in, I say, look, this guy Oliver is German. Your family owns a successful winery in Germany.
Owned.
Okay.
Correct what you said. Yeah, owned. Yes.
Okay. And you certainly could have taken on the reins of this winery in Germany and lived as a proper German.
Just let me go in here for a second. When I came to Romania, it was pretty clear that I will not take over the winery from my parents. It was the usual stuff. Two boneheaded guys are not good together. So me and my father was not really. It wouldn't have worked out in that way, because one was boneheaded in this direction, the other one's perhaps in the other direction. So it's not good. You cannot run a winery with two alpha males, to say that in this way. And so it was pretty clear, pretty clear that I will not continue with what my parents started there. And yes, therefore I decided to travel, to go outside of my region, to make wines, and in all the necessary steps. So from zero to head of the winery, or as chief winemaker. So to see all the steps, and to learn the profession profoundly, to have experience. And what I was missing after all these years, and wineries I have been and working at. I wanted to go to abroad. I wanted to go in a foreign country to see how I'm doing there, but with my talent, or with my experience. My issue was I still have had, let's say, depth from schooling. So I was, let's say, forced to earn money, and not
right. Yeah, you can't be a student forever.
No. The German state gave me a loan and for my studies, and of course it was a very good thing. So I'm not complaining, but I was obliged to pay it back, and I also wanted to pay it back as soon as possible, and therefore it was necessary for me to earn money. And unfortunately, most of the so-called foreign experience jobs are not with money. There you have to bring money. For example, I was also, of course, applying to Australia, but without it, I think it was back then 10,000 Australian dollars in your account. They wouldn't have you without relation and let's say vitamin B, as we are saying in Germany. You were not able to, you're not able to get the job there. And of course, it was always kind of an apprenticeship, one of say a practica, something like that. But it was not really paid, so it was no option. And I filed for. To run a winery or to make wines. I wanted to make wine. I didn't want to hack a vineyard or to clean a tank, because this is what I did long enough, and I knew how this is functioning, so I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make wine, and therefore the selection became very narrow. So to earn money, to go to a fancy place where everybody wants to go, and to make wine yourself, so to have the responsibility to make wine. Let's say the options have been quite only a few. It was quite a single one I got.
Well, let me just jump in here. Let's go back to 2003 or 2002, whenever that was. How did you find yourself drinking a Pilsner in this German Biergarten with wheat beer, not Pilsner? There, if you're drinking a Pilsner in München, they will kill you, literally kill you. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. No. You were doing a wheat beer. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's clarify this. Hey, wait a minute. What the hell's going on? We're not drinking.
I'm drinking. I don't know if you realized it, but I'm already drinking.
Oh, okay. Well, I unfortunately I don't have any Bauer or Stirby wines here.
No, never mind. It's good stuff.
I got one bottle of Davino. This is Dan. Dan is it's one of the older wineries, older, I guess, in terms of older new wineries. One of the
Davino is one of the very first high quality wineries in Romania. Yes, absolutely. No?
Yeah.
They set standards.
So this is a 2012, and when I was in Romania last year, I met Dan, and I told him I had this bottle, and he said, "You better drink it, because this is 2012." So, and here it is, almost a year later, and I haven't opened it. But because I'm in Romania with Oliver right now, and sadly can't open one of your wines, which we're going to talk about shortly. I'm going to open a Romanian wine, and we'll at least toast together. It's a little earlier here. What time is it in Romania, Oliver?
Well, we have now 20 minutes past 11 p.m. Of course, okay. It's dark.
So it's late there.
I've been a little bit jealous already when I've seen some sunshine coming through your window there. Yeah, I've been quite a bit jealous. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, it's time. So you're in the beer garden with a wheat beer, and you're talking to.
The beginning was a little bit different. I asked for a job in South Tyrol, and the funny thing was, and I really have to a big shout out to all the Tyrolese people there, which answered my requests. South Tyrol, Italy, has been the only country where I got all my requests back. So I got from all the wineries I asked for help or for a job. I got at least an answer.
And which country?
Italy, South Tyrol.
Okay.
But a huge shout out, and will not forget that was pretty cool. And amongst others, the brother of Mr. Kripp, Sigmund Kripp, he answered my writing, and he said, unfortunately, they don't need a winemaker, but his brother, together with his wife, they are intending to relaunch and to revive a historical winery in Romania. And if I'm interested, he can make the contact. And when I have to say, when I hang up the telephone, I was thinking for 2 seconds, Romania, where the heck is Romania? And I took out let's say a book to look it up, And yes, it's also the first time when I have been here. It was like a cultural shock. It was completely different from what I expected, because at that time, and I think until today for a lot of Germans, the civilized world ends somewhere, let's say, in on the frontier to Hungary. Hungary is already very exotic. It's already very far east.
Yeah,
but Romania is very far away. Completely bullshit, but it was in this way. And so we got in contact, and they lived in Austria, or they live in Austria, and I was from Germany, and somehow we decided to meet somewhere in the middle, on neutral ground, so to say. And that was Munich. That was Munich, and yeah, we met in a beer garden with a Weissbier and a classical dish. And then we talked about wine and about winemaking, what kind of ideas they have, and what they want to do, and to get known to each other. And it became pretty fast, pretty clear that we're talking the same language. So preferences, the idea about wine, and also the no compromise concerning quality and approach to quality. And yes, when they showed me then pictures of the project, it was clear. No, you have to go there. It's for sure cool. It will be a once in a lifetime experience for sure. And this is how it developed. And I came here, yes, and I stood here for a little bit more than 2 months. And I came back every month, I think, for one time at least. And after half a year, it became clear again that it's not going to work out for us in this technique of the system of flying winemaker. I have to see my wines. I have to be next to my guys here, and then we have to work together to do a good job. And therefore, I came back in 2004, and I came back for good.
You came back for good. Hey, I just want to say that we've got a couple more people tuning in from Bucharest. We have Octavian, and I can't say. How do you say that? Sukaluk? Can you pronounce that, Oliver?
Sukalut.
And Karen's in from New Jersey, so we've got we've got 3 continents covered so far on the call today. All right, so now you're a German guy in Romania. Could you speak the language in those? Did you?
Not a word. I remember the school where I made my degrees for enology and for viticulture. They used to have a professor. When he found out that I'm going to Romania to make wines, he immediately, let's say, offered me some help, and I made up a list with special words. I may have, let's say, words which would have been useful to know when you're working with somebody who is not understanding English, French, or whatever, or German. And I made kind of a dictionary for myself, which I intended to keep every time in my side pocket of my trousers. But after 2-3 days, I threw it away because it was not possible to explain something and to look every second word up. It's simply you don't have the time. So I was learning the language, learning by doing. So talking, and the people have had a lot of patience with me. I have also to thank them. They really helped me a lot in the beginning, because it was not that easy to be alone in a completely, for yourself, unknown country, unknown culture, unknown language. It's kind of difficult. It was awfully interesting and exciting, but also difficult. But the guys have had a lot of patience with me and helped me a lot and gave me a hand. It was great. Yeah. But what helped me was that I also learned French, and so if you know a Roman language, it's a Roman-based language, you're doing fine. It's not as difficult as other languages perhaps to learn, but yeah, it's necessary. You cannot do something like that.
I have to say, my first time when I was in Romania, which I think was 2017, and I was in Cluj, which is the capital of the Transylvania region in the north, and I'd been there for 2 or 3 days. I stayed kind of exploring that region. And one night, I was in a restaurant, and there was an outdoor courtyard, and there was only 2 other tables and me. It was back before social distancing, but we still had social distances. And I heard this couple, there were 3 people, 2 women and a guy, talking. And as I listened to the language, it was really beautiful. And I, you know, I'm sitting there alone drinking my first Romanian wine practically. And I said to him, I says, "What? Can I interrupt you? I'm sorry. What language are you speaking?" And they said, "Romanian." And I said, "Wow."
What a big surprise, no, to find in Romania.
In Romania, somebody actually
somebody spoke Romanian. That's a huge surprise. Yeah, absolutely. No, but
who would have thought?
What I always say to people, it's at least for my ears, it's absolutely beautiful when Romanian people are starting to swear in their language. It's a perfect language just to swear, and it never sounds, at least for my ears, it never sounds dirty. Of course, if you know what it means, it's very dirty. But for me, it's really nice. It's really nice. It's absolutely fantastic. No? But seriously, it was a huge step, and what I can say, and what impresses me until today is I always got a huge credit only due to the fact that I'm a German. The people, they never saw me. They didn't know me from the start or in the beginning. But I always got a lot of credit, a lot of respect, and I never felt like a foreigner here. I was always, let's say, involved in the society here, in the region, in the families, and it's quite impressive. It's quite impressive. So I think it's something to learn there. It's another approach. Everybody, of course, is very curious who is coming now in the German, and the German wants to have this in this way, and they want to have this in that way. And after a while, they realized we are also normal people, so we don't eat. We're not man-eater, and it was quite a huge deal, because what was very funny, or let's say awkward in the end, is the worst things I heard before I left Germany to Romania. The worst things I heard about Romania was from Romanians living in Germany. And this is something what until today I will also not forget. And I'm always saying that those people who are living since longer time outside of Romania, there are really few letting let's say having a good word to say about their former home or their former home country, out of several reasons, which may be true or may be valid. But this is what I was realizing, that I never have had, let's say, meaner words about Romania than from Romanians coming, living in Germany or in a foreign country, talking to me and warning me, don't go there. You will not have left the aircraft, and they will have already stolen your shirt, your luggage.
Oh, yes,
no. It was pretty. It's strange. It was really strange, and coming then in such a country, and normally in the beginning I used to have a stroll during the weekend. I was working 6-7 days. There was no kind of free time. The first time I had been here, and but in a couple of hours I have had a day free, especially on Sundays when nobody worked. I also strolled, of course. I took a walk, and I visited also the villages, nearby villages, to see where my guys are living and so on. But after a while I stopped that, because every time when people realized who is coming, then after 10 minutes the entire village knew, oh, the German is coming, and everybody invited me in their courts, and which is a nice gesture. It's a really nice thing to do. My problem was that these guys always offered such a lot of food. I think they haven't eaten, they haven't consumed this much food within 1 week alone. What they offered me only for one, let's say for lunch, to have with them. And every time when I entered or when I exited the court, there have been at least 2 souls less alive, because I entered the court and somebody went with a knife or whatever in the backyard to sacrifice a chicken or something else, to offer something for the German. Very hospitality is a huge thing here, and it was really impressive. It is still impressive.
It is to this day super. I mean, I had the same experience. You know, I was the guy on the motorcycle, but you know, the crazy American, and I would go in, and just like you said, you'd wonder who else is coming. Look at all this food. There must be
that's the normal amount. That's the normal dose you will get when you are invited into a Romanian at a Romanian table. Yeah. No, it's absolutely it's stunning, especially when I think back, and I'm also in bed with some regrets. What kind of a bad, let's say, opinion I have had about, or I have had about countries like Romania, without even knowing something more detailed, or without having further information or detailed information about the country itself. Of course, there are huge problems, still are huge problems here, but name me a country where that isn't the case. And it's what I like is to be here accepted as what you are. So you don't have to become here a Romanian to be accepted. Of course, you have to integrate. This is something else. But I have here a nickname, and nobody, at least in Dragasani, I think the majority, they don't even know my name. It's only the crazy German, or the German on the hillside. This is how people are calling me, the German, but not with, no offense. So it's simply, it's that no, this is the German. It's like the crazy guy. Hey, this is the German, this is the Romanian. That's it. This is Vasile, this is Ilya, and this is the German. This is like a nickname, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. So you are German, and now that you've been there more than 17 years. And if can people hear me? I got a little note from somebody. I appreciate you letting me in. There's I moved the microphone a little closer. I want to make sure you guys can hear me. Although really the guy you should be listening to is my guest, Oliver Bauer. If you just tuned in, I'm talking to Oliver Bauer. He's in Dragasani in Romania, a beautiful wine region along the Olt River. And what he was just telling us is about the hospitality there and how he was the German. And I want to come back so you're on the Olt River, and this part of Romania is called Oltenia, correct? This is without getting into a whole geography lesson, but you are on the Olt River, Oltenia. And when I met Oliver last year, we talked about the hospitality and about the Romanian people and about how he had becoming a bit of a hybrid. And I want to just play a short clip. My conversation with Oliver on his patio at the Bauer Winery in Dragasani, overlooking the Olt River. Listen.
The idea that I will become a symbiosis or something like a melange amongst what's good of the German mentality and the German kind of being, way of being, and the Romanian, respectively the Oltenian way of being, because I think this is a pretty cool mixture. An Oltenian German, it is I think a kind of a new breed or something.
Sorry, sometimes you get a little hiccups on these audio things, and it would also help that after I play a video to turn my microphone back on. Okay. But what I wanted to talk about is I want to go back before World War II, at a time when Romania, Oltenia, was a different place post World War II, and how I want to talk about Prince Stirby himself, because Oliver is a winemaker, and that was what originally brought him to Romania, was to revive and restore an old royal family's estate. But after World War II, the communists began basically seizing property of various elves. Let's talk about Princess Maria. Is that right? And what happened? Where she went and how she ended up with the German. Not Princess Maria, but her daughter.
Yeah. Iliana, you're talking about
Iliana, yeah, but her mom.
So you first of all, Jakob Ribby is not a German. He is an Austrian, or if you will ask him, he's a Tyrolese. So it's he's not a German. Yes. As far as I can tell, and as I know it, when they met and they got married, they spent their honeymoon in Romania, because her husband wanted to see where his wife comes from and what was, let's say, the former property.
But and then back up, Oliver, just before you get to there. But Iliana and her mom Maria were living in Romania, but they escaped to France, right? So from France to Germany, Austria, how did that happen?
That's a good question, but I'm not going into this, let's say, private details now. I'm not familiar about what was exactly the road of Ileana. I know their, let's say, their lives and what happened, starting with starting with their honeymoon, because this was when the adventure of Romania started or restarted.
Okay.
And I'd say after some years, it was, I think, 96, and yes, after 6-7 years, I came into the game. I entered the game, and but this is what I know. But this is what I know for sure, and this is the background because of what I'm here today. Because these guys spend their honeymoon in Romania. I don't know. Most of the people, they think about, I don't know, exotic destinations, Caribbeans, whatever, to spend their honeymoon. No, he wanted to know where his wife is coming from, and what was the property, or where she grew up actually. And I think he has had the same, if not even stronger, the same impact. It has had the same impact upon him. He told me a lot of times that immediately when he came to this country, he was sure, I want to do something here. We have to do something here. We have to try to get back the properties, and if this is not possible, at least to invest. But here it's too nice, it's too beautiful. We have to do something again here. And I cannot agree more with that. It's really great. It's awesome.
Yeah. So and as I remember the story and exchanges, so Jacob and Ileana, they wanted to preserve the culture. Now at this point, Ileana got royal blood, and that estate was taken away, and it was quite a process for Romanians returning to Romania to get the title back to this.
It's tough. It's tough. Yes, it's absolutely. It was also a fight for sure, and it's not. And as I understood, I don't know people who got back everything. So the loss was not complete, but you always lost something. And of course, it's only if I now try to imagine how that must feel. If from one day to another, some guys show up and say, "So what's yours? It's now ours. So get the hell out of here and be quiet." It's tough, and it also shows that if you're forcing something, you cannot build something. It's not going to last. This is the idea to revive this estate was not, first of all, to earn a lot of money overnight. This is not, there's nothing to do with money. This is simply, it was a heritage of the family. It belonged to the family since centuries, quite centuries. And yes, history should have been written, or should be written continuously. And this is, I think this was the drive these two guys have had. And I think it's also visible. We started out very small, with I think 30,000 bottles in the beginning, because back then the concept of quality wine and of smaller wineries, of indigenous varieties, of single grape wines, of single vineyard wines was not a very popular one. Big is beautiful, and let's make some adapted wines for the market, especially for the export market. This was more the idea. So we have been quite like.
This is what really impressed you with your first conversation with Jacob, right? That you run it. They were interested in focusing, as you wanted to, on these indigenous,
absolutely. Now, first of all, what is always a safe bet, that a person who loves Pinot Noir can be a bad person. So and we, or let's say a person who loves a good Pinot Noir. This is perhaps
you can't be a bad person, right? Right. You guys shared a passion for Burgundy, obviously. Yes. Yeah. No.
He. I think it was kind of a trick question. He asked me, what would I prefer, a nice, mature, great Burgundy, or a nice, mature, great Bordeaux? And I said, Burgundy, anytime, not a problem. If it's really great and nice, mature, yeah. And then he laughed and said, yes, I have the same opinion. But I think it's about approach. It's about approach and about let's say understanding, the profound understanding of what the wine business. It's not even a business; it's a lifestyle. what it means, what it means for yourself, and also the footprint you are leaving behind. Because winemaking, or say viticulture, is nothing what you should not calculate in months or in quarters or in years, but in generations. So what we are doing now, we are harvesting now, let's say, the effort and the work of generations working this ground before us, and we have the obligation and the duty to leave behind us the same possibility, the same fertile soil for other generations which are still to come. Also to have the same possibility to make a living and to write on the history of the wine culture here in this country or in this region.
Yeah, this is why I call Oliver a philosopher, because he has this so right. And speaking of generations, I'm going to put this slide back up again. This is the Stirby, part of the family tree. And
but wait, but you see here the last one, Maria Stirby, is the grandmother of a Jana Grip. So this is after that we have already again 3 generations more. So it's not even complete. This
is still being built, and like you said, you got to keep tending to the soil and leave it for future generations. But so Maria was the grandmother, and I know that Maria, along with Ileana, when she was about 12, did escape the communists, who were putting people either in work camps or even murdering them, for the bourgeois. But the idea of these grapes, I want to come to this label, Oliver, and this is one of the Stirby wines, and maybe you could just tell the story better. I can.
Yeah, this is what you can see on the label is an old commercial printing, or an old commercial print. Don't name it now on the time, but it's either in 1905, 6, I don't know. It's something like 1900 and some years. So very, very old. And this was actually, let's say, as a commercial for Stirby wines. And what you can see here is a barrel with a young lady inside there with a crown out of, let's say, wine leaves. And the wine itself is called Feteasca Regala, Fata din Butoi, the girl in the barrel. And Feteasca Regala means royal maiden grape. Therefore, this royalty is expressed by the crown of wine leaves and a young girl. So we have the Feteasca and Feteasca Regala in one picture. And due to the fact that this is the single vineyard wine and 100% Feteasca Regala, it also, let's say, explains perfectly what's in the bottle. So without even writing the variety on the label. So that's the very idea. So we are combining, let's say, the modern times with successful past and tradition. And this is what's so great on Stirby and the brand, the history of Stirby. It's real. There's nothing fake. There are not a bunch of marketers sitting around and making some stuff up. No, it's real.
And, wouldn't it be great to have a prince in this? Yeah, exactly. So what are you drinking right now?
I'm drinking a Feteasca Alba.
Let's see
if I must.
Yes, you must. So Feteasca Alba. Now, because the other one was Feteasca Regala. Feteasca is how
the white. I mean, I'm drinking now the white Feteasca, the older grape. Huh?
Yep.
But yes, but what we have seen in the beginning, this Fata din Butoi is a barrel aged and barrel fermented wine. What I'm drinking today, because it's in it's a little bit lighter, is a stainless steel fermented wine.
Yeah, and this one I'm drinking. By the way, it is beautiful. It's got it's showing a bit of maturity, but it's got this nice dark cherries, and it is primarily Feteasca Niagara, which is the black Niagara black, the black version of that. I don't know, Oliver, you can tell us that. And then it's got the Bordeaux varietals, Merlot and Cabernet blended with it. But it's actually for 2012. I thought it would be really tired because Dan was warning
No,
me.
no, that's one of the very, very famous, very popular and it's icon wines in Romania. Ceptura Rouge from Davino is a very, very well-known wine.
Yeah, one.
This is why I said there's also Davino is one of the wineries, of the few wineries which kept, let's say, the focus on quality, and they're doing their stuff. They're having their philosophy, and the results are saying enough. So I don't have to comment. That it's great. It's really, really good. So we have a lot of potential here, and some of the wineries are already also using it and performing since years. Some even for more than 1 decade already, of almost 2 decades, performing very, very well. But we are still there are too few of them. We need more, and we mean more, let's say, distinctive wines, more types, more character wines, to bring Romania back on the map of high quality wines, at least in Europe. We just have to imagine that before the Second World War, because we talked about that, Romanian wine was highly appreciated throughout Europe, and even farther than only Europe. Only during this delightful communist times, quantity and cheap products have been, let's say, very, very fancy. They were wanted, and everything was concentrated to produce and to obtain this kind of stuff. And it shows how fast you can ruin a reputation. But what you cannot ruin is the potential, and Romania has a huge potential concerning winemaking. We have, similar to France, different regions with different strengths and possibilities. And I am in the lucky position, and it's not what I did. Meaning I didn't know that in the beginning. But Dragasani, our region here, is really a region, and you can perhaps confirm that because you tried some of the wines, where you can do as a winemaker almost everything. So from sparkler to sweet wines, dry wines, rosés, heavy wine, red wines, lighter red ones. It's everything is possible here. It's simply great. It's like a El Dorado for real winemakers.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm going to show another slide now, because I did taste we'll talk about the Stirby wines and then go into Oliver, but the Bauer wines. But this is exactly why Romania needs some attention, because there are these grapes, these grape varietals, where at Stirby they're focused. Most of the wines are native varietals. Certainly, there's others that are thrown in there, but your focus has always been this. And I'd love to chat about this next wine, particularly one on the left. This is a great story, because you guys almost resurrected this from the dead. Crampuche Selection.
Let's say we resurrected it, but not from the dead. Crampuche was since decades, especially Crampuche Seleccionata was since decades pretty alive, and Crampuche as the main, or the mother variety, the origin variety, over 2,000 years. So it's nothing what was dead, but it was not appreciated. You simply have to imagine it unfortunately until today. We are in a similar situation. The grass seems to be always greener abroad. So everything that comes from abroad is better. What comes from France, Italy, it's better than what we have here. And not necessarily the part of the clients does that, but the part of the producers. So if you're hiring somebody like me, you're hiring an Italian or a French guy or German, and then these guys are doing exactly the recipe and the wines from their home country. So Italian does Italian wine, the French, and the Germans try to do German wines here, which is, in my humble opinion, a huge mistake. I'm always I always tried, and I'm doing now, I'm pretty sure about it, Romanian wines, Oltenian wines. I learned my profession, what I know about winemaking, I learned from Germany and in other countries or in other wineries. But here I'm not a German. Here I'm a Romanian making Romanian wines, because we are in Romania. And the varieties, especially like Crampuche, are screaming to be, let's say, to be allowed to express themselves without interfering, without putting them into a certain box or in a certain scheme, to fit in a certain demand of a certain market. And so Crampuche was, when we started it in 2003. the discussion was about, should we take out the old vineyard, because they have been old back then already, and replant it. And then I strolled the vineyards to see how the grapes are looking and how we are, with my colleague, the administrator and the head of, let's say, the viticulturist of Stirby, Mr. Nilutz. And I have seen these old vineyards perfectly healthy, in a nice shape, vigorous, and the fruit, the grapes healthy and nice. And I tasted it, and it's impossible not to make at least a drinkable wine out of this stuff. It's impossible. And I also asked him, listen, because we have had this discussion, has there been in sometimes a wine made out of Cambuchia, or was this always such a, let's say, a lesser grape variety? And he was looking at me like an imbecile, and I said, what are you talking about? Of course we made Cambuchia wines. It's a really, really good grape. And he was right. But he was the only Romanian one encouraging me, supporting me with the idea to make out of these varieties wine. Everybody else, I talked about Cambuchia and indigenous varieties planted in the region here. What do you think about it? Oh, no, you should take it out, and you should plant Pinot Gris or Chardonnay, stuff like that. This is also what you can sell. And what was the good thing was that we have been already this far with ripening, and the harvest was this close. It would have been stupid to throw it away. And so we decided, or so I was able to convince the people, and especially Family Grip was also of course agreeing with it. Let's try it. And if it's not up to our expectation, then we can still sell it bulk. And it was a try, and that was it. But when we launched it in 2004, it was, looking back now, it was for me like an impact after an atomic bomb, or after a huge bomb. You're dropping it, and then you're seeing a big light, or a very, very bright light, and then there's silence, really silence. Nobody says something. It's complete. It's a pure silence, and then everybody starts. Oh, but this is incredible, and this cannot be. And so discussion is starting. The people are finally, let's say, taking wine serious. They're finally talking about wine. Wine is not only something what you're popping up out a cork and then you're pouring in the glass and you drink it. No, wine is something what belongs to you. It's culture. It's your past. It's your history. Whatever. And this is your wine. Cambuchia is the only in Romania you can find Cambuchia Seleccionata. You cannot find it somewhere else. And these kind of things. And it was amazing to see that how wrong those have been. Giving us names, or let's say laughing about us when we came up with the idea to make single vineyard wines or single grape wines, especially with indigenous varieties. Yeah, there have been some wineries also before us with exclusive with an exclusive portfolio of indigenous varieties, but they never talked about it because they have been ashamed. We don't have that. We have only that. But this change, or this is about to change, and this is what I'm very happy about, because we have a saying: if you're following the footsteps of others, you're never able to overtake. So you have to create your own style. You have to create your own personality and your own philosophy. And this is something what you can offer, because this is something what you can sustain because you're convinced about it. And this is also what where your strengths are. Of course I can make a Rhine Riesling in the region here, but it will never be a Rhine Riesling. It will always be a white wine out of a variety planted in the wrong region or in the wrong
place. Right. Yeah. Hey, for those of you just tuning in, we're running up to our hour long, but we're going to stick, I think, Oliver, can you stick around a little bit? Because we still have a few things we need to talk about. For those of you who want to stay, we'd love to have you, but if you have to go, the replay will be available on YouTube after. But we're really getting into the thick of this right now, and I love the philosophy of not following in the footsteps, but leading and to overtake. And at a time where people in Romania, winemakers, wine companies, even foreign investors are coming in, trying to, maybe boost the quality a little bit, but still go resort back to the old quality.
Concerning quality, the overall quality soared the last years. It's became much better.
Yeah, and here, while we're on this, because I tried all these wines. These are photos I took, so I would remember. And these are the Stirby wines. Oliver made these. This one in the middle here looks like a rosé, but it's a sparkling rosé, made from a grape also unique to. In fact, I believe Stirby is probably one of only, if not the only one, making wine from the Novak. You can tell us, but that's a sparkling wine from Novak. And then this is a very specific grape on the right, Negru de Dragasani, is also, these are all indigenous grapes at a time where companies were wanting to make Cabernet, Merlot, international varietals, and Stirby is really promoting, and even to this day is push the quality and is raise the awareness of these. Tell us about Novak and Negru briefly there.
To be fair, those are, let's say, not necessarily indigenous varieties, but crossings. They have been, let's say, developed or crossed in Dragasani. But it's true, the Novak. I think I have a crush on underdogs. I always like I always like the idea to be right. I mean, I like to have to be right, and therefore I think I'm always teaming up with the underdogs, just to feel a little bit more the heat. But Novak is for me a substitute for Pinot Noir. There are really only a few red varieties capable of, let's say, providing the possibilities to make complex, profound red wines and very good rosés and sparkling wine. So Pinot Noir is the first thing that comes up to my mind when I'm thinking about a huge, great red variety capable to do all these things. And unfortunately, as I already mentioned with Riesling, we have here continental climate conditions. That means we have very, very severe summers, very hot, very dry summers. And normally, the last 2 winters haven't been that hard, but normally very, very hard winters. So minus 20, 25 degrees, nothing unusual here. We have a lot of snow. Thank goodness we have always a lot of snow. But so the extremes are very, 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 very strong, very, very high, and therefore Pinot Noir isn't really fitting in here. It's not really the grape variety coming in mind if you're thinking about planting a new, let's say, red variety. But Novak is way better adapted, so it's a crossing say, between Sabaravi and Negru Verdos, and it was actually made in at the research center at Dragasani. So it's a Dragasani variety, if you want.
Yeah.
And of course, one with a milliliter of wine in his blood wants to make wine out of this variety in Dragasani. It's the same thing about Negru Dragasani. It's the same story. But Novak is for me the more interesting variety because it's the underdog. Because as you mentioned already, Stirby is the only winery in the world and also the first making a sparkling wine out of Novak, and it's also the only sparkling wine out of Novak so far, and the 100% pure Novak. Hopefully, from now on, from here, people will follow a little as they did with Negru. Also, this was something. Vinarte and Stirby, we have been the first ones with Negru Dragasani. But Negru Dragasani is a little bit more everybody's darling, and therefore it's a more successful, more appreciated than the Novak. But I think it's the same thing. Like, of course, if there are exceptions, but it's the same thing between Bordeaux and Burgundy. Perhaps you have to start with Bordeaux to understand sooner or later Burgundy. I know only a few people starting right away with Burgundy wines. So I think this is how you have to see that.
This is the evolution of the wine lover for sure. Is that you start off with big, bold, for red anyway, big, bold reds, and then you end up going to your mom, to the maiden of Pinot Noir.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's for me Grand Bouchier and Novak, because this is what people keep asking me. What's your which wine do you prefer? What's your, let's say, eye candy? And my eye candy for Stirby, at least, that is for sure. In the white section is for sure Grand Bouchier, and on the red section is for sure Novak.
It's Novak, yeah. And in the Novak as non-sparkler, right? Just as the red wine, the more elegant.
I'm talking as a variety,
Yeah, as a variety.
So,
I have to say, I'm just going to go ahead and stick my thing out here. I had that was the first wine Oliver poured for me at Stirby this summer, was the sparkling Novak, and I was interested in all the other wines he is, but I'm like, fill me up that glass again. I mean, that is one of the most gorgeous. And I tend to like a rosé sparkler as well. It just is it's stylistically and beautiful, just a great, elegant wine. We're up in that. I want to show people because we're starting to lose some people because they're we scheduled for an hour, but we're going to stick it on. I forgot to play this video earlier, but it'll be at least on the replay. I want people to get a sense of what Dragasani looks like. And when I was there, I said, God, this could be Tuscany. This could be people that look at they don't. Yeah, Romania. I mean, people don't understand. So here for this is a short little video. I want to give a shout out to Alina, and I can't pronounce her last name, but Oliver Yanku, who, by the way, has a website where I want to give a big shout out because some of the photographs and the footage came from Alina. She has a Revino, REVINO.RO. It's in English and in Romanian and other languages. This is the most comprehensive overview of Romanian wines in Romania. Nobody has done more work than she has in promoting and aggregating all of the wineries. She's done these maps. I just want to give a huge shout out because she's been so kind to let me use some of these photos, and I know you're a fan of her as well.
Absolutely, I'm a huge fan because she's the one with as you said, the most current material, the most usable material. A lot of people are talking and using and wasting a lot of money for their efforts, but she was actually working on it. She was working hard on it to put a map on the map of the vineyards, of the regions, and so on. No, she's completely crazy and completely into wine. We love her all. She's a great
and cheese now, and there's going to be a show in November, a Romanian wine and cheese show that or fair, however you want to call this, but it's a show, yes. It's a show. Okay, so here is a quick view of the Olt River, Bauer Vineyards, and Prince Stirby. Check this out. That microphone thing again. Yeah, that's Romania. And if you think that's just a teaser there, you really have to be there in person to get that sense. But that we saw some of the Stirby vineyards, we saw the Bauer winery, the Stirby winery, and some of those great shots inside your place. And I know we're past our time, but I want to get into Bauer now and talk about how you started in 2012, so you're now 7-8 years into this. But from 2003 or 4, for 8 years you worked primarily on Stirby. How did Bauer become about?
Well, as I already mentioned, the possibilities and the opportunities in this region here are huge. It's absolutely fantastic what one can do if one has the patience, the money, and the time to do it, and of course the vineyards. And I think it was in 2010. In 2007, we made our first let's say, footsteps in own winemaking. Together with Mr. Lutz, we made some wines. Only I wanted to try some things to see how it comes out, but it was nothing too serious. I think 4 or 5 barrels, whatever, and 3 different varieties. But in 2010, we were able to harvest the first time Petit Verdot. And back then, I think we have had over 25, 26 different wines for HDB, a winery with 25 hectares. And different wines, if I'm talking about different wines, I'm not talking about different labels, but really about different wines. And it's a huge, a very, very, very rich portfolio, especially for a winery in a country with a, let's say, not yet mature wine market. So it's very, very difficult to sell and to explain and to handle this huge offer of different wines. And therefore, Mr. Kripp said, no, I don't want to make more. I don't want to extend the portfolio. I want to do what we're doing here. And
25 is plenty.
No, we reduced it in the meanwhile.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, you don't want, but I want to. So we have to figure out how that can happen. And the idea of an own winery is always there. I think every winemaker which is serious about what he or she is doing, there's also the wish to have something on your own, to do something, let's say, with your name on, really with your name on, or something for your own. And therefore, this was the possibility. I said, okay, I will not do that for Stirby. I will do this for ourselves, or for me and or together with me and my wife. And we started our first wine under the brand. Also back then in 2010, there was no branding, there was no ground, there was no house, there was no cellar, there was nothing. There was only the idea. We even bottled the wine after 1 year of aging in barrels. We vinified it in HDB, and we bottled it HDB with HDB bottles, with HDB corks, for Christ's sake. everything was from Stirby. No, it's for me it was a huge thing, because I am pretty sure that Mr. Kripp and Jacob got a lot of phone calls and a lot of discussions how crazy one can be and why you're letting him do this. He will make you concurrent and blah blah. All these stupid bullshit.
All this negative. Oh, he's going to take over your business. Yeah, right.
Exactly. But I think he understood, as we understood ourselves immediately concerning the preference of red wine. We also understood ourselves there. It was, for me, it was clear. All Stirby wines are also my babies. So I will never do something to cut something off from Stirby. And the idea was not to do the same thing only with another brand, but the idea was to extend the portfolio and to show the people and the wine lovers the huge potential and the diversity of this region here. And so it was clear from the beginning that we will do it at Bauer only this stuff. We won't do for Stirby and vice versa. So I'm doing now over 30 different wines every year, only in 2 wineries.
You're a busy guy. I wanted to give a shout out to Raluca, by the way. You mentioned her. This is you guys in the vineyard. Look at that fall colors in the vineyard. It's beautiful. And good looking couple there.
Yeah, that's a real cliche. Yes.
This is the classic. It's the classic vineyard shot. But you're missing the wine in the hand, though. It's really.
This would be the cream on the cake. Absolutely.
That would be it.
in the vineyard, the wine glass. That's absolutely.
Yes,
I can understand it. This is the romantic part. People want to see that. Yes, I understand it. But normally, I like to express myself and to shine, to let myself to be recognized through my wines and not through some, let's say, altered pictures.
right. It's not about marketing, it's the wines, and I'm going to show some nice pictures, but this is actually the Bauer estate there, and on the left is this patio you can see on the edge of that building there, and that's where Oliver and I had our discussion, tasted those wines, and you and Raluca cooked up we grilled some goat. Oh my god. And then that sauce, that grandma's sauce, what was that again?
It's not a sauce. It's sakuska.
Okay, well, you know, we have to find a word here in English. It's kakuska.
It's I really don't know. It's not a sauce, but it's also not a puree. It's hard. There are different vegetables cooked for forever, and with dozens ingredients and cooked for 1 or 2 days. It was simply a way to be able to have also the vegetables, to make them resistant during the winter times, and to have something to eat also during the winter times. And due to the low and long cooking, and it's made by my parents-in-law, and they will not give me this recipe while they are still alive. I think this is kind of a heritage. You have to.
Yeah, I tried to get this recipe when I was there, and I was told the exact same thing, that Oliver hasn't even been able to get it. There's no way I'm going to get it. This is the fog rolling in off of the Olt River from their home here, and you know, Oliver talked about he's making 30 wines. This is just a handful, and we'll talk about the branding. Here's a question I didn't get to ask you last year, and as I follow you on Facebook, you know, it's Bauer. And the typography there, but there's the dot. And I noticed that whenever you talk about the Bauer, you always put in parentheses dot. And I know there's a story here, but I just don't know what it is. So what's the dot, Bauer? What is the, you know, what's good? Tell us.
Well, you know, it's for me, this classic labeling, this classic branding of wine, for me it sucks. It's simply it's boring. It's not what I want. We have had a pretty clear imagination, a clear idea about how a label should look, because I said from the beginning, I will pay one time a label, and that's it. I will never change it again. Perhaps I will adapt it a little bit in forms of color or whatever, but I will never change that. It's because it is also such a sport here in this country. Every 3 months you're coming out with a new label. It's ridiculous. And therefore we work together with a guy also from Cluj. Cluj is the town in Transylvania, where you mentioned it. They have been for the first time to ask people what languages that they are talking there.
Right, it was so beautiful.
And we have a very, very good friend there, and he has a colleague or a friend, which is a designer, but not a food designer. So, when I heard that, I was immediately, let's say, enchanted, and said, yes, that's exactly the thing. I don't need somebody doing the same recipe like for others. I want somebody completely from outside the box, and to have a completely different view on what I want to have. And then we talked together, and I told him I want a high quality label with high quality materials, but nothing with bling bling, not a lot of gold and signs and fancy names. I don't know what. I want a high quality material, very expressive but simple, very, very simple. And he completely understood what I was talking about, and he came up with the idea to sign the label with my name. The name Bauer was set. It's clear that I write my name or our name on the label, because this is the normal thing to do for me. But the idea of signing the label, this came from this guy. You know, you're doing let's say a handcrafted product, so your label has to show that, meaning it has to be handcrafted, also the signature. And then he asked me to sign some papers with my name, for him to see if he can use that. And after, let's say, I sent him then some samples of my signature, and then he phoned me back and said, Oliver, please stay making and keep making wines. Don't do anything with writing or whatever. It's not good at all. I cannot use this, and nobody can read that. It's not good at all. And then he made, so unfortunately I cannot say this is my handwriting, but it's supposed to be my handwriting. And he came up with that, and he asked also our friends and family, tell me something about Bauer, tell me something about them, about him, what is he doing, how do you see him? And amongst others, Karl was also one of the guys who were interviewed by this designer, and they were drinking 2 or 3 bottles of wine, and the guy kept asking him about me and what I am, and what's about me. And I think at a point, Karl got a little bit nervous and said, come on, I told you everything I knew, and I think about him. It's Bauer. Punkt. And then there was silence, and then he said, "That's a great idea." It's Bauer. Punkt. Stop. Nothing more to say. That's it. Bauer dot, and that's exactly the idea behind this dot. It's Bauer. Punkt. Nothing more.
Yeah.
Nothing more is necessary. No.
Bauer. Period. Yeah. Bauer. Period. Okay, that's a great story. I love the process of unlike you. You make great wine. My career before I started roaming the world, riding my motorcycle and looking for great food and wine is I was in branding and marketing.
I just can see it here that Jonathan Karl was asking something about the defining indigenous varieties. Does he mean which are the most known indigenous varieties, or the most important, or what is because I want to answer this question. Because
good. Jonathan Karl, by the way, is my brother. He is the chief White House correspondent. I'm going to give a big nod out for him tuning in. He is very busy, covering our crazy times in COVID and at the White House. And he has a new book out. If you haven't heard about it, it's Front Row at the Trump Show. Get your copy. It's great. So a little pitch there. But Jonathan, clarify that. You can chime in here and ask, clarify. So, which is he asking? Which indigenous varietals are the best or the most important? Let's see.
But the most known ones are in the red section is for sure Fetasca Negra. Fetasca Negra. This is very important, very known. Very known. Concerning the white ones, it's Fetasca Alba for sure, also very, very well known. Fetasca Regala is let's say it's planted a lot there in Romania, so we have a huge quantity of Fetasca Regala. There are plenty of indigenous varieties from Romania, and it's difficult to let's say to make a ranking, because it's personally what I consider to be a really great variety is Grasa de Codnar. Also Francuscia is a really nice variety. We have Babesca Negra, we have Tameasa Romanesca, which is, let's say, not necessarily indigenous Romanian variety, but it's a very, very well-known variety. So there are plenty of varieties which are, let's say, not really known abroad, outside of Romania.
And I think and John, I just because I wasn't looking at the chat here, he's asking. So I when I flew back from Eastern Europe last year, I ended up in DC, and I had a lot of my wines, and I left them in DC. He's asking if there is any of these wines there. There is another bottle of Divino, I believe, and there are a couple Romanian wines, Jonathan, that dig into your cellar, grab one, open it up. It's fine. I would love to be doing it with you, but we can do it this way. But John's asking more like, if as Malbec is to Argentina, even though it's not an indigenous varietal, Sauvignon Blanc became synonymous with New Zealand. What do you think could be the defining grape for Romania in the sense that we know it's diverse, we know there's so many, but if you had to plant a stake in the ground, what do you think could be that defining? I think that's what he's asking.
Well, this is exactly what we are trying to put through since many years right now. Let's take as an example. Let's take Fetasca Negra, because it's the most popular red variety so far.
Yeah, and I'll just sip a little of that while you tell me.
The problem what I have with these things, first of all, 20 years, and I think it's not really much more than 20 years of quality winemaking is not close to be enough to establish a variety, a certain variety of varieties, even representing and presenting an entire country. If it comes to indigenous variety or to a certain wine, I don't know how many centuries it took the Germans about their Riesling, or the French and Burgundy. Yeah. So it takes a little bit more of history and continuously quality and coherence to create something like this. And this is exactly where the problem starts. Fetasca Negra is such a similar to Nego Dragasani. It's a pretty approachable variety, very vigorous, high sugar levels, very fruity, very dense, and I don't want to say it's easy to make a very, very hefty wine out of it, but it is, and especially when it's planted in a region or on a soil where it's normally does not belong. But it fits it fits perfectly the demands of an immature and the emergent market. So if you want to feel something, to smell something, and if you want to have a perfect blending partner, then Fetasca Negra is for sure the one of your choice. But this comes with the problem that you are diluting the real potential of any variety. And just as an example, Napa Valley, Chardonnay and Cab, that's it. Perhaps a little Zinfandel, but Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon, that's exactly these two varieties, and normally no blends. It's a Cabernet or it's a Chardonnay. Burgundy, Pinot Noir or Chardonnay, and yes, I know there are also others, but this is not even close to be important. It's Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Germany, it's Riesling. Even in the Champagne region, the blends are always an adaptation, always not a compromise, but something you use to reproduce a certain quality and a certain standard. Therefore, you're using blending. And if you want to stand out, if you want to shine, you have in one parcel, I know, 500 plants. In this since 500 years they're making they're growing this variety there, and we're making 500 bottles out of this from this wine, and therefore this is our star, this is our icon, and this is what I would like to see more in Romania. We are always trying to please everybody, and especially the market. And the market asks today for this, and tomorrow for something else. But as I mentioned in the beginning, you cannot switch, you cannot adapt and change this fast your wines, your varieties, your style, your philosophy, as the market demands it, if you let the market demand these kind of things. And therefore you have to stand for something, meaning nobody would go to Burgundy to buy a Cabernet. The idea would be completely, no, you're laughing, but don't laugh. Yeah. In Romania, you can go to certain wineries and you can find Riesling, Cabernet, and Pinot Noir. And if you want a Shiraz, and all blended together also, you can find everything. And this is exactly, I have nothing against a good wine. For sure, those are also good wines, technically spoken. But if, as Jonathan asked it, if you want to shine, or if you want to step out of the crowd, if you want to overtake, you have to do your own stuff, you have to do your own thing. And even if the people reacting, and believe me, I have experience with that. I think a third of the Bauer production, I'm not doing, at least a third, I'm doing this knowing that I will not earn a penny with the sales, because it's simply, nobody's interested, or let's say nobody. There are too few people interested in these kind of things. But for me, this is essential. This is exactly what makes Bauer, let's say, for me, important. If we also do something what can be replaced easily by any other winery, we would have, let's say, no right of existence. What we are doing is, we are the avant-garde, the unspoken avant-garde, and the crazy ones. Little guy, tiny crazy ones, they are doing crazy stuff. Yes, you can drink it, but it's not mass. It doesn't match the mass market demands.
Sure.
It also shouldn't. I mean, I bottled in 2012. I bottled the Petit Verdot, 260 normal bottles and 20 magnums. This was all. This was the production. This was everything. Yeah. And this amount of wine, let's say, remains after filtering in some wineries only in the filter. I mean, it's yeah. And this is what is my criticism when it comes to Romanian wine marketing or wine philosophy. The potential is huge. And we have perfectly equipped and made wineries. What we are lacking is the courage to make Romanian wines in the best meaning. Romanian wines. There are, of course, there are some wineries, but the vast majority, and also the mass majority of consumption, is still, let's say, yeah. It doesn't matter if you're drinking an entry level or, say, a retail. Bordeaux blend from Romania or from France or from the States, it's always the same or almost the same. Even the pricing is similar, but Romania is too small and also too expensive, as as funny as that may sound, to produce, let's say, entry-level supermarket, or let's say wines in a huge quantity without funds or without, let's say, subventions. And
Sure.
it's also for me. You have a jewel, and you should try to bring out the beauty of this jewel, and not to try to make this jewel look like another jewel. It's a waste of potential, in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah. No. Well, this is always a classic, business versus passion, and what's right, what's actually right, and what's right for your pocketbook. And doing some, and I opened up today, as you may recall, this webcast talking about people who have been locked up for 9 weeks, or finding that they really, maybe what they've been doing in their life isn't what they really should be doing, and having that a bit of awakening. You, Oliver, several times today have talked about possibilities, and how by moving to Romania, you have been able to realize possibilities that takes generations, as you said before, in a country like Germany or France, that you've been able to build this for future generations. And amen to that. That's I agree with that. That thinking. As far as a defining grape, I mean, I'd be like you with the underdog. I'll be raising my flag over here. Novak. But this is just, this is fodder for while I do sip a very indulgent Fitasca Negra blend, for sure. But it is anybody who thinks that all they want to drink is California or French wines, open up a bottle of this, and then as you get more adventurous, move into the pure Fitasca Alba, move into the pure Crampouche, and the Novaks, the Albas, the Regala. Oh my, and enjoy. This is why drinking wine is not only drinking wine, it's history, as you said, it's culture, and to express that culture through the wine, and not to try to be something that you're not, or somebody else that you think you should be. This is why I think I love what you're doing at Stirby, at Bauer, and what people are doing in a lot of these former communist Soviet countries, and it's those people that I think will rise because they are celebrating the culture. And that's me on my little soapbox. But
talking about pocket books, I think it's essential. It's very, very, very important for you, for a long-term view, to do something on your own, because as soon as you are, let's say, more or less easy replaceable, you have a problem with your pocketbook. Because as soon as somebody else shows up, which is who asked for less, you're out of the business. And whoever wants to have something, I'm always laughing when I'm reading or hearing about special editions and very rare wines, and that's why the wine is so expensive. And so, since I'm in making wines in Eastern Europe and also knowing other countries like Serbia, in Montenegro, Croatia, Moldova, when you see what really rare wines are, and we are talking here, let's take, for example, the Novak. It's something we are making 4,000 bottles a year. If you're making this wine, 4,000 bottles a year of this wine, and that's all for the entire world. So of course you may have a very, 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 very let's say rare champagne. But go one step out of the house and go in the other house, and you have another very, very rare champagne. But it's almost the same stuff. It's the same basic. It's the same region. It's the same everything. But something like Novak, or I don't know what kind of other varieties, it's rare indeed. It's simply something you are not, and it's not that you have to rob a bank to purchase and to enjoy that. It cannot be cheap. This is of course also clear, but in comparison with really expensive wines, it's a steal. It's nothing.
No, huge value. Yeah, for sure. for sure, and very special. I mean, you can find the Mavrud in Bulgaria as well as in Albania. Believe it or not, Mavrud is an ancient old varietal, but still, if you could find them, they're so small production, but they're still, compared to your Western European rivals, are
what we are facing with this kind of I don't know if it's novicism, but what we are facing with this kind of let's say not thinking outside of a box is that we have a development what I call the Coca-Colization of winemaking. So if there is something like, I don't believe in that, but if there is something like the best wine, let's say there is something like the best Bordeaux blend, and let's call it Bordeaux. Of course, everybody tries then to copy that to make good money with let's say we are doing the same wine, which is the same quality, only cheaper. So therefore, this is the only argument we have then. Buy this wine because it's cheaper than the original. And I always say, people who are affording the original, and this is exactly the bonds I'm after, or we should be after, because those are the guys who are forming a country or forming, let's say, a certain variety to become a distinctive variety from a certain country. The guys who are able to afford the original, they will always buy the original. I will never buy, let's say, if I can buy a real Van Gogh, I will buy a real Van Gogh and not a copy, because I will always know that it's a copy. It's good made, but it's a copy. And
yes, buy original.
Therefore, exactly. Therefore, I'm always saying I want to make, and this sounds very arrogant from the first view. I mean, I'm starting this in the beginning of my wine tastings or presentations. I don't want to make copies. I want to make originals. But this is nothing arrogant. This is simply, for me, simply necessity to survive. Meaning, also not for me actually to survive, but for this winery or for this philosophy to survive, to be also here in 20, 30 years, and not to be replaced by something else.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think when you can stand up, and then a lot of times this does take not necessarily arrogance, confidence, and confidence is willing to take a risk to do what you think is right. And you know what? We know, and I'm sure you could tell stories that sometimes you might fail. It's okay. It's actually okay. You might not do the best thing, but at least you can't say you didn't try. And that.
But I think this is, excuse me that I come in here now, but I think you in the States, I think you guys, it's in your blood, it's in your culture, let's say. Let's say, try it. If you fail, try it again. We have in Europe, we have this kind of, let's say, lots of us, we're happy with what we have and what the neighbor is saying, and not if I fail, and what if it's not correct, and what if it's not good. We are thinking, first of all, we're thinking 100 times before we're starting something, instead of starting something and then think what I did wrong, what I can do different. And this is, I think, this feeling of this desire of being appreciated and to have a benchmark you can orientate yourself. If you're doing something completely new, you don't have orientation. You are the orientation. You have to. There is nothing you can say. Is mine as good, or is mine as fast, or is mine as heavy, or is mine as expensive? You don't have a point where you can orientate yourself. You have to be as self-confident enough. No, this is good. This is exactly what it should be. And this is tough. This is tough work to do. It's way easier to say, we are making it like the others, almost as good, cheaper, and then we're paying some guys in suits and making us a nice marketing concept, and then we'll press it into the market. This is unfortunately what's happening most in most of the cases, and therefore I said I would love to see more types, winemakers, wineries, wines, more types, and even they don't have to agree with my opinion, with my philosophy. No, let's also have a discussion. Let's not fight, but let's struggle over certain items. Why not? This is the salt in the soup. This is simply the spice in your life. And
this is healthy. Yeah,
absolutely.
So along with that, taking risks and about, like you said, this is in our blood. Maybe in the U.S. and in Europe, it's different. But you obviously have a little bit of that in your blood because you're taking chances and risks and you're willing.
You don't want to know. This is also funny that I got rid of almost all my friends, former friends from Germany, And you don't want to know what people thought, also my family, what they thought about my idea to move to Romania. This was,
You're out of your.
It's quite a blast. It's quite a blast. Yes, let's do that.
Yeah. Come on. Hey, why don't you join me? Come on, move to Romania with me, huh?
Yeah, but that's only as long as or until these people have been the first time here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, go ahead. Finish that.
Yeah, we have had hundreds of thousands of visitors during these years, and from all over the world, really from all over the world, all possible cultures, ages, different social status. It's everything. A really colorful mixture, and none of them, not one person, stepped out of the bus, the car, the motorcycle, whatever, and looking around, said, "Oh, it's so ugly and awful here. Please let me go home." Not one said that. It's everybody said it's completely different than what I was expecting, in a positive way.
Yeah, that's again. You made a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about next, because we're talking a lot about wine, and there is another wine thing I'm going to come back to, but not what I expected. And I know as we're winding into our second half an hour, I mean our fourth half an hour. This is the longest one yet. Romania, it's not what you expect. I mean, you've got castles, you've got fortresses, you've got the Black Sea coast, you've got the Carpathian Mountains, you've got Transylvania, you've got Altania. Why? And should you give a slap in the face to the Germans and to, thank God those international those international visitors who have come to you, because they have now opened the door, and hopefully they tell more. But what can you say to somebody who's, never been to Romania? Yes, we know we're talking there's great wine, but why should everybody come and give this country a visit?
I think it's because of the differences you can find here. It's completely, it's like deconnecting. It's like plugging yourself into another power output. What's for me the most fascinating thing is this extreme, let's say opposites, or the opposite extremes. It's on one side you have this crazy Moloch and big town like Bucharest, the crazy traffic and the smog and the stress and the anger and the nerves and whatever you want to. And there are also ugly places for sure. And then on the other side, you can take a ride of 3 or 4 hours, and then you are, let's say, entering in the still biggest, really old forests in the entire Europe. So Romania still has the biggest surface and connected surfaces with old forests in the entire Europe. Of course, Russia has more, but Russia is a huge country compared to Romania. So these extreme opposites of one-sided, very, very stressful, nerving almost excitement, and on the other side, this silence, this nature, this back to the roots. And as I said, still this culture of hospitality, like we know it from stories. Just go have a walk in the mountains, and you see, let's say, old farmhouses where still, let's say, old guys are living there since 60, 70 years. They have no electricity, or if they have electricity, they don't use it. They don't need nothing. They're simply living with what they can produce, what they're doing on their own. Of course, it becomes more and more difficult because the youngsters are all gone, and if you're old, you cannot do everything alone. So they need help, of course.
Yeah,
but it's simply impressive. And when I see the grandparents of Haluka, for instance, they don't need money. They need money perhaps to pay their, let's say, the taxes for electricity and for not even for water, but they have everything themselves. They're complete. They don't suffer now through this crisis. They don't understand because of what they are not allowed to walk anymore outside the house. Or because of what they have to protect themselves. Her grandmother once told me, when we talked about that, when I told her to be careful, that, "Boy, how old are you?" "I'm 86. I can take care about myself." I have seen much worse. But this is really impressive. And I think it's important for us to see, especially from people from industrialized nations, you can calm down here. You see what's essential for you for a living. Of course, it's nice to have a second, a third car and have a huge house and I don't know, whatever kind of luxury. But if it comes to the price that you are, let's say, forget to live it, you don't have time anymore to live, then a visit to Romania can still, because it's also about to change here, can be still a delightful experience, because here there's silence. There's silence, and you can, yeah, as you said in the beginning, if you want to find yourself again, here you can re-find yourself again, very easy, and get known to people, and to habits, to culture, which is hundreds of years old and still in practice, still alive in a way. Romania is a very rich country. Unfortunately, it was forced to undergo this 60 years of communism, and now also it's not everything is too bright. Everything is, it's very difficult. Let's let but the potential. It's like with the wine business. It's the potential is huge. The diversity. It's a rich country.
Yeah, it is, and obviously for me, I'm usually the kind of person who says there's I'd rather not go to back somewhere I've been before. I always want to go somewhere new and explore and have a new experience. But as I've I mean, obviously there's very few places I had a bad experience and that I would, I'd go back to almost anywhere. But there was something about Romania, and frankly, Bulgaria to a degree as well. At least in Romania, they use the alphabet that I can read, so I can kind of get it. Anyway, but I feel so much for these former Soviet and communist countries that were frozen for 60 years. And, the potential has always been there. So I have my own phrase for these parts, Serbia, Romania. I call it the new old world, because it is the old world. I mean, you've been making wine there as long as there's been wine in France and, in Roman times. Yeah, older. And, the dacia, right? It goes back. But then just what 60 years can do to a country and totally rewinding it go back. And to see it reemerge now as a new world, but still has that old.
Yes, indeed. But what's a pity, and in my eyes also a mistake, is as I said a little bit earlier, that since I'm here, I always have the impression that it appears always that the grass abroad is much greener than the home. And I always saw in Romania, when I came here, I always saw it as or considered it to be a possibility to start with a blank piece of paper and a pencil, and then you make it new from scratch. But what in most of the cases is happening, then we're going again from one extreme, the first communistic times and rules and habits, or say techniques, towards what we call the Western techniques and Western lifestyle, which is, after my opinion, also not the final conclusion. It's something, as I said, I mentioned something of a hybridization, of a hybrid amongst Germany and German and the Romanian. I think you can also extend this to a country. Yeah, I have nothing against the punctuality, the preciseness, and the German mentality if it comes to work and to let's say to be correct, whatever that means in the wider view. But in this kind of German mentality, combined with the Romanian mentality of enjoying life and appreciating life itself, and this is exactly what I try to do for myself. I don't know if I'm able to spread this also around me so for others to benefit from it. But this is exactly what I consider to be so great in this country. Here, if you have the capability, if you have the will and let's say the power to do something really good, of high quality and high performance, you feel free to do that. You can do that. But if you want to stroll in forests where there are trees with hundreds of years of age and bears and wolves and everything, you can also do that. And this is exactly what it's so fascinating. I mean, when it changes now, but here in the beginning, when I switched off the bulb in the evening, it was completely dark there. I was the only person, let's say, in the area of 5 kilometers, me and my dogs. That was all. And this was for a German coming from also from a small village where I was living and working, and also the town where I was born was also 130,000 inhabitants. But it was completely another picture. And today I'm happy that I'm here and not in a town. If I want to have stress and the craziness of a town, I can do that. Not 2 hours and I'm in Bucharest, not a problem. 2.5.
Yeah. If you want the cosmopolitan,
but then if I have enough, I can go back. I can go back to my own house or to my own home, and can relax and can think about it. I think this is the biggest gift I got from this country. This wider view on something. I'm not this narrow-minded anymore. I see things way more pragmatic, and I think I see things in a realer. It's more real the approach is more real, more realistic. And this is for me, it was a huge thing. And I think this is also what's so fascinating for a lot of people. They're coming here, oh my God, no this, not that, and they cannot do that, and it's no roads, and they have shitty cars, which is not true, and they are, I don't know, 40 years behind, and then they are coming to a place like ours, then they are sitting there for 3 or 4 hours, eating traditional stuff or whatever they want to eat. We can also do fine cuisine, it's not a problem, drinking wines, and simply breathing for a couple of hours, this spirit of relax yourself, enjoy life, enjoy the moment here. And if you're in Romania, enjoy in Dragasani, enjoy what we have to offer. Then go to Serbia, to Moldova, to Ukraine, to the States. Go in other places and enjoy what this particular place has to give you. And don't try to find everything what you have home also somewhere else. And I think this is what people are completely surprised about. It's not as they expected. It's not ugly. They're not killing you here. They are not stealing from you. The last time somebody stole something from me of huge value, my rucksack with a camera and the laptop inside, it was in Düsseldorf, in front of my hotel. For me, I was ready to attend the fair. Düsseldorf, Germany. There people stole from me. Here in this country, I got not one time, and I not even felt, let's say, threatened, or let's say, not safe here. Not one time. Not one time.
Yeah, no. I the only time I felt threatened in Romania was some of the drivers, on a motorcycle.
Okay, on a motorcycle, you are excused. Yes, but you excuse me. Here, you're not allowed to be a sissy. Yes, it's life. Here's the wildness is hard here.
Yeah, you get somebody who just wants to, says, I don't need to be far away. I could be 2 feet from the rear of that guy's motorcycle tire. Oh my God. But what a, but what great. I mean, there's towns like Sibiu, Brașov, obviously we talked about Cluj, Timisoara. So the second, third, fourth, fifth cities are they a lot different than Bucharest. They have each one has a different energy, a youthful energy. I mean, in the north towards the is it the Hungarian border up in the Maumaris, did I say that right, Oliver? Matamoros. That's like going back in time. It's so there, as you said, there's so much diversity there, and I have to be a bit of a bang on the drum of Romania, because I really like all the visitors Oliver has entertained at Bauer. It's not what you expected. I try not to go in with expectations, but when I came out of there from a cool university city of Cluj, to a great wine, to listening to, I'd heard the language in the streets and everything, but when you really hear certain people having a conversation, how, it's just peaceful. And I love it. I love it.
Yes, it's still this, and I hope we can preserve this. It's because I feel like we are losing it here also. It's as I said, I would like to see that this way of thinking that the grass is greener abroad, I would like to see that fading away. Just because it's not true. And a lot of Romanians asked me in the beginning, why in God's name did you, as a German, why have you left Germany? I mean, are you crazy? I mean, what are you do they have a revolt on your head in Germany? Were you forced to leave, or why did you do that?
Were you forced at gunpoint, right?
Go there, go, leave here. And I said, no, absolutely not. And it's I think this way of thinking, we have to be aware of other values than only the money, and let's say a perfectly asphalted highway. This is nice to have, but it's not only the essential thing. But I have to admit, in Romania, it's about time that also concerning infrastructure and logistics, it's about time that we will change.
Yeah, one of the things I loved, and especially when I got off of those more where the truck routes are, that's where I always had the, just worrying about staying alive on my motorcycle. It was the horse carts. They're in. You could be right outside of Bucharest, and there's a family on a horse cart. You can be in Dragasani, and yet, there's the guy in the Bentley cruising down the big highway at fucking, excuse my language, 150 kilometers an hour, and he's on my ass. And, you see that contrast there. And yes, things. Yeah.
That's quite a view. Yes, a Bentley next to a Karuzza, how this is called here in this horse cars that are called Karuzza.
Karuzza. Hey, one of our guests sent me a private message here, and I don't follow a lot of this. He says, "Are the Romanians still good at weightlifting? Is that a thing?"
The only weight I'm lifting every day is me out of the bed, so I have no idea.
The Olympics.
I have to look this up. I don't know.
I know that Iceland. I know Iceland has always been. I remember being up there.
I'm asking our logo if she knows something, but she says since long time nothing anymore.
Not so much anymore. Okay. See, so things do change and evolve.
Gymnastics. They are forced in gymnastics. This is still
Romania, of course. Yeah, gymnastics. That would be going back to Olga Korbut, right? Yeah. So wow, I've kept you up. It's well past midnight now, I know, in Romania. And this has been such a great time, and I wish we could be, sipping wine face to face, and I know we will soon. We will soon be.
Will come. It will end. This will end, and we will see each other in no time. There's not a problem.
Okay, good.
Always be positive.
Always be positive. No, it's exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Any last words of wisdom to our viewers on finding adventure, finding happiness, and finding good wine? What would you say?
Let's end on this about what wine, but I would like to encourage the people to allow themselves to take the courage to be more open-minded, and especially the parents, let their kids go, let's say, in more unusual places. Let them go to see and to get known to people we think they are not good, or they are not let's say of what we want to have. Because I think only by visiting and getting to know each other, there's a deeper understanding, and then we will enjoy each other's and every particular place. Let's stop thinking in boxes. Let's be a little bit more open-minded, and encourage especially the youngsters to be a little bit more courageous and to have other values than only where I can get the the biggest and the fastest buck for my efforts. And this is I think this is what helped me a lot. And this money, or let's say a good life, comes with time. If you're doing what you love, what you're passionate about, and if you're doing it in the right place, and if you found your place, then you will lead a good life. And if you need a second or a third car for this, I think it becomes less important then. So this is, I think, my wish for everybody: be a little bit more open-minded and do what you love to do, because this is only one life, and you should enjoy that.
It's not a dress rehearsal. Awesome. Thank you, Oliver. This has been a great talk with Oliver Bauer of Bauer Vineyards, Crama Bauer, as it's in Romania, and Prince Stirby from Dragasani in Romania. This has been the 7th episode of Journeys. I got to thank my guest, all of my guests. Next week, I've got Leon Logothetis, who is a television host. He has an awesome program called The Kindness Diaries, and it's about being kind as well. And I look forward to come back next Monday. It'll be at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're gonna get Oliver back again, right? I'm gonna get you back again. We're gonna continue this conversation because we never have enough time. So thank you, Oliver, and we'll see you, folks, for Journeys. It's adventure and discovery in the time of Corona. We continue to get open, but thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next Monday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Journeys Webcast. I'm Allan Karl, your host. Be sure to tune us in every Monday. The time changes depending on where we are in the world. This is Allan Karl, and where will your next journey take you?